we've talked a number of times about Andrew Cuomo, and I think this story is so indicative of how the press operates and how power operates in this country that I keep kind of coming back to it. But he, as we've previously covered, I guess I'll start with maybe a little recap here. During the pandemic, he forced COVID positive patients to stay in nursing homes, possibly infecting tens of thousands of seniors, causing who knows how many thousands of deaths. Okay. He then lied about this and covered up what had actually happened. They were manipulating the numbers of COVID deaths in the state of New York, minimizing those. And all the while, Andrew Cuomo writing and by the way, he made cuts to public health infrastructure and public hospitals and things like that prior to the pandemic, which further crippled the health infrastructure in the state going into it. Anyway, he then, during this pandemic, he writes a book praising himself. It's a self-aggrandizing book about leadership and how he had done so well in handling this crisis. It then comes out, and by the way, you guys, I want to set the stage. I want to make sure everybody understands how bad things were in New York at this point. There were literally trucks on the street full of fucking bodies because COVID was hitting New York so hard. And while this is happening, instead of he and his staff working endlessly and tirelessly to try to fix or somehow remedy or improve the situation, instead what he was doing was having his staff help him write his book on public time, right? Like these are the governor's staff. So all sorts of ethical violations at play here, all sorts of distasteful decisions, and that kind of thing. For his book, he was given a $5.1 million advance. Now, of course, the book didn't sell at all, which is hilarious. But when you get a $5.1 million advance, you don't much care if it sells now, do you? Anyway, the latest update here, an ethics panel a state ethics panel in New York has ordered him to give that money back. But the attorney general has now intervened, and it's a little bit complicated. So this is in the New York Times. Why the attorney general stalled the move to collect Cuomo's book profits. A state ethics panel said the former governor had to turn over an estimated $5.1 million in proceeds. Not so fast, the attorney general responded. After a succession of damaging body blows to his political career, public image, and reputation, former Governor Andrew Cuomo seemed to finally get some good news as the end of the year approached. The state attorney general's office indicated in a letter 2 weeks ago that it was unable to enforce an order by a state ethics panel to compel Mr. Cuomo to turn over the proceeds of his pandemic memoir, contending that there were procedural steps that the commission must take before any money could be recovered. The decision by the attorney general, Letitia James, has seen not only as a victory for Mr. Cuomo, but as a rebuke to the panel. The Joint Commission on Public Ethics, a secretive and much criticized body responsible for upholding ethics in Albany. By the way, they frame that. Notice how they frame that. They frame it as though the panel is problematic. The ethics panel trying to hold Cuomo accountable is problematic. You guys, this wasn't a close vote. The vote was 12-1. That he should have to give this money back. This wasn't like a gray area. This wasn't like up in the air. For the New York Times to so openly play defense for such a horrendous human being as Andrew Cuomo is beyond egregious. And I'm hopeful that what Letitia James is doing is genuinely just procedural. I hope she means it when it's like all that needs to happen is the panel needs to take a couple of extra technical steps and then they can force him to hand that money back over. But we inundate the powerful from any form of accountability, you guys. If you or I did that, if you or I was caught using public funds to write a book that we made $5.1 million off of that was bragging about something that we catastrophically failed at, we would have to give the money back. We would probably be criminally charged for what he did. Not only the nursing homes, how about sexual harassment and assault of his staff? I mean, and media members, by the way. Oh, and a cop. There was a female cop who he was into, so he demanded that she be assigned to him, stuff like that. If you or I did that, we would be in big time trouble. But Andrew Cuomo, because he's a fucking Cuomo, gets to just get off scot-free, no problem. He also will not be charged for some of those sexual harassment and assault allegations that came out just a couple days ago. So the Cuomos get away with whatever the fuck they want. His brother, too. His brother gets to commit journalistic ethics violations that are egregious, beyond egregious, a degree that's hard to describe. Like journalistic, you learn in journalism 101, you can't do the things that Chris Cuomo was doing at CNN. But he gets away scot-free. There's no punishment for it whatsoever. He's a multi-million. They're both multi-millionaires. They both have a lot of influence in DC among the powerful and the rich and elite. This is how things work. They are inundated from any sort of criticism or accountability. You and I are held to excessive criticism and accountability, right? Blame the powerless, inundate the powerful. That's what we have done as a society. So this is egregious on all sides. Like, it's not just a crime and a mistake and a fuck up. It's then the book just adds this whole other layer to it. This tells you who Andrew Cuomo is and what he cares about. He doesn't give a damn about your grandparent who died in a COVID ward in New York City. He doesn't give a fuck about him. What he cares about is his reputation and his bank account. What do you think Chris Cuomo cares about? He cares about his reputation, his fame, his power, his leverage, right? We saw that with how he handled the whole situation with his brother, offering PR advice and telling him to sweep it under the rug. Using, by the way, his sources to tip off his brother about future accusations. Who do these people care about? They care about their own, and that's it. Period. End of story. The most greedy, selfish, horrendous people among us, and we praise them and deify them and prop them up and give them a platform and let them live the highest possible lifestyle. This is the society that we have constructed, and the Cuomos are a prime example of how broken that construct actually is. Broken's the wrong word because it was designed this way, but you guys get what I'm saying, how problematic that construct